This is Ben Sirwa, Superintendent of Schools at MSAD 27, and I'd like to talk to you today about the habits of work. Fiddlehead Focus and St. John Valley Times recently published an article about Community High School and Valley Rivers Middle School here in Fort Kent, moving their honor roll system to be based on the habits of work and not necessarily academics. And I'd like to just briefly explain why the change and hopefully answer some of your questions in this presentation. So why the habits of work? First off, let's talk about traditional grading. So when we all went to school, and most of us went to school, we had a grading, and here's a question. What is the average of 85, 82, 95, 100, 79, 2 absences, 5 late arrivals, 3 tardy homework assignments, a failure to participate in class, discussion on 4 occasions, 1 note passing incident, occasional messy handwriting, a final poster project that was not colorful enough, and 1 unusually poor test performance the day a family dog died? The answer is, this is called grading, and we've done it for over 100 years in schools across the country. Now that's obviously a far-fetched a way of explaining how grading works, but essentially what's trying to be said here is that there's a lot of factors that go into traditional grading that really have nothing to do with the actual learning of measuring of what the student is learning in the concept. So I'll try to highlight it with this example right here. You'll see this is a basic skills math test, and you'll see that this student, who is me, got 3 wrong out of 13. There's 12 computation problems here and 1 word problem. So 3 wrong out of 13 is a 77 percentile, but I lost some points for some things that have nothing to do with the learning. So I lost some points here. I forgot to put my last name. Teacher took some points off. I did not label my math answer here. I got 5 points off as well. Had I turned in this assignment a day late, I might have lost 10 more points. Had I not passed it in at all, I might have got a 0. So you see that there are definitely factors beyond math that attribute to my overall grade. Now, is it important that I'm putting my name at the right place? Is it important that I'm labeling my answer? Is it important that I pass in my assignment? Absolutely, those are all very important, but they don't really factor in how well I know math. And what we're trying to do here is separate the actual learning of the concepts in academics and separate that from all of those other things that either get us to successfully learn or not successfully learn, and try to separate those into 2 distinct categories. So take these 2 students for example. Student 1 up here. Again, this is traditional grading. Most of us saw grading just like this. So this is a science unit. The students are learning, and it's going to be over several weeks. It starts with a pre-quiz. This student here, student number 1, pre-quiz got a 98. Knew the concepts very well, almost 100% before the learning even starts. Student here down here doesn't know it quite as well, knows some things about it, but is closer to that B minus, C plus range of learning. So the learning starts. They get a homework assignment. Student 1 up here is 3 days late on the assignment, gets some points off, is down to a 70. Student 2 does wonderfully on the homework, got a lot of support at home, and really did well on the homework assignment. They had a class assignment the next day. Student 2 showing still that they know what they're talking about, getting that A on that classwork. Student 2 struggling with some things, but knows some things again on the classwork. The next day, a homework assignment. This one goes missing for student 1, gets a 0 on it. This student does very well, lots of support at home, does well on that homework assignment, gets 100. Classwork here, a student did well but got some points taken away because they didn't have a name or the work was messy. This student is now showing some improvement. Obviously, the work that's going on is starting to pay off, and you can see that the score is improving. Midway point, teacher gives a quiz. The student shows that they still understand the concepts as they did when they started. This student is improving, still has some work to do moving forward. Next homework assignment, this student passes it in 2 days late, gets an 80. This student does very well, gets a 95. Classwork here, the student argued with their team today. This student was just really not getting along with the team, lost a ton of points because the collaboration, the cooperation were not good on that activity. This student did well on it, 91. Next homework here, 3 days late, gets a 70, and then the student here, 95. The final test comes out, this student gets 100, and this student gets a 91. Now, if I were to ask you which student knows more about the science concepts, I hope you would agree that student 1, who got a 98 pre-test, a 99 in the middle, and then 100 at the end, obviously knows more about the concepts than this student here. But if I asked you which student is more accountable, or which student has more responsibility, which student is more engaged and invested with the learning, I think you would probably say student 2. So we definitely see a disconnect when we calculate the average overall score, because what this says is that this student only knows 83% of the science learning in this unit, and this student knows 90% of the science learning. Whereas I feel like this one is very accurate. The student does know about 90%. I would have to disagree that this student knows 83. I feel like there are other factors that have gone into this student's grade that really have nothing to do with the student's understanding of the actual learning of science. So what are the habits of work? So we developed some core values. We had focus groups of students last year who decided on adopting the core values of respect, responsibility, honesty, and engage and invested learning. We hang these beautiful banners throughout our schools in order to celebrate that, and we're having these discussions with students on an ongoing basis every day, and it's really improved school climate and school culture because of the focus on these core values. We've taken the core values and we've thrown them into 3 categories. So the 4 core values into 3 categories for our habits of work. We've taken respect and honesty, and we focused that as one habits of work. And what we're looking for is for students to behave respectful in an honest manner that values school, community, society, and each other. With responsibility, the learners demonstrate responsibility for the learning and are accountable for the decisions they make. And with the engaged and invested learning, we're looking for learners to be engaged and invested with the learning, committing to a growth mindset and putting forth their best effort in demonstrating self-advocacy. So things like respect for the diversity of others, respect for school property, taking personal responsibility for actions and choices, seeking help when needed, trying your best at all times. These are the type of skills that we're looking for as students are working on their academics. We are looking at these separately and how they inform those academics. So in a math class, a student will be measured on the actual concepts they're learning. So if it's an algebra class, they're being measured on their algebra concepts and getting scores for those actual math concepts. And separately from that, the teacher's also looking at how the student is working within these habits of work. What does their respect and honesty look like? What does their responsibility look like? Are they engaged and invested in the learning? With respect, are they respectful of their fellow classmates, and are they honest in doing their own work? With regards to responsibility, are they using their time wisely? Are they actually doing their assignments? And engaged and invested learning, are they accepting challenges without telling the teacher, I don't want to do this? Are they demonstrating an I can attitude? So those type of things are separate from the academics. So, are these house scores subjective? We're really trying hard for them not to be subjective. We're trying to identify these habits based on sets of behaviors that we examine every day. So just to quickly identify the difference between a behavior and a habit, John was late to class today. If he's late today, that's a behavior. He was late today. However, if John is late to class 7 times in the past 2 weeks, we can look at that as a habit. So we're really taking those behaviors and trying to identify habits from those behaviors. We have a tracking system at the school where every time a behavior that is not according to our core values is demonstrated. We're having a log of that, and the teachers are filling out the students' information, and that's collecting a whole bunch of data that we can start to examine. The class periods where things are happening, the location in the schools, the core values that are being impacted, and this data gets very comprehensive where we can actually look at individual student data. We can sort by student and see how many times a student has missed an assignment, or how many times a student has been disrespectful to a fellow classmate. If that might have happened, we can really look at it. And we take those habits, and we are now taking those habits and starting to examine how can we use that information from the habits of work to offer our new honor roll for students. Because what we're recognizing is that students who are working with the habits of work in mind, so they are at the level we're expecting them, they're doing well also in their academics. But in addition to that, we are also having students who are really working hard. They're respectful, they're responsible, they're honest, they're engaged and invested, but they struggle with the learning a little bit. But it's not because they're not working to their capacity, it's just the learning is difficult. We're able to capture them as well. Because they are embodying exactly what we're looking for, and in order to do that, we took a look at the word honor and looked at synonyms for honor: distinction, recognition, privilege, glory, esteem, respect, admire, and the word honorable, honest, moral, ethical, righteous. And we thought about what kind of student really embodies honor. Is it somebody who can do school really well and get A's, even though they may do other things that are not honorable? A student can be on the honor roll in the past and have multiple suspensions from school. And just to give an example, as long as their grades are appropriate, they would be an honor student. Now we're trying to really demonstrate to the students that this is the type of student we're looking for at Community High School and at Valley Rivers Middle School. We want learners, we want problem solvers, we want students that are empathetic, we want students that are team players, we want community builders. And if we can get students to, in their mind, really adopt this philosophy, we feel like the grades are naturally going to come, because most people would have a hard time arguing that these words on this profile of a community school graduate are not exactly what we hope for all of our students. I know that employers will look at this, and if an employer knows that they have an individual in front of them that embody all of these things, that is somebody they want to hire. Seeing a piece of paper with a lot of A's and possibly B's doesn't really necessarily guarantee you that you're going to have the type of employee that you want. But if you have somebody who embodies all the core values and these things as well, we truly believe that this is what an honor student should be, and these are the type of students that we hope to graduate. That's just the surface of how we've come to this, and I haven't done justice to the full extent of the explanation, but I hope at least you understand that in this change we're not trying to give out participation medals and that type of thing. That is not the goal here. The goal here is to really get students to understand those things that lead to success. And if you want to be a successful person and a successful student, you've got to at least you at least have to adopt our core values that lead to our habits of work that are going to make you the type of adult that we all hope to be. Again, if you have questions, please contact my office, contact the office of Mr. John Coletta at the high school or Mr. Gary Stevens at the elementary school, and I'm sure we'd be more than willing to discuss habits of work or anything else regarding our schools with you. We're very proud of our schools. We're very, very proud of our staff staff who have adopted the core values and the habits of work. They're not perfect yet. We recognize that. We've got a lot of adjustments to make, but we do truly feel that this is the right direction to go for our learners, and we hope that you can support that as well. Thank you very much.